The Studio Series number, wait, let me check. Number 88, Sideways, is based off the second Transformers game, I think. I have never played that game, but I will put some gameplay of him. And it is really the only place we can get a clear model of this guy. He did show up in the movie, however, he only appeared for around like 20 seconds before getting cut in half. Which is quite disappointing because he does look quite good. And in terms of sculpting, it is very, very nicely sculpted. I really, really like the Bayverse detailing. Very nice. I don't have any issue with it whatsoever. I think he looks quite cool. Though I do have to say the inner legs are a bit hollow, especially here and here. Well, basically the whole leg. And that is quite unfortunate. But it is sort of understandable because it does have a purpose in transformation. So I guess that's fair. I still would have appreciated it if they figured out a way to fill these in. But everywhere else on this guy is filled in, solid, and detailed very nicely. But even his backpack is basically non-existent. It's just the boot of the car. Very good. I think he looks really cool, and I'm not sure how accurate he is to the model, but I do remember these wing pieces being inside, like near the midline, instead of on the sides. So I would have appreciated it if they managed to do that. I do wish they would have like made this swivel just to make it more centered. But regardless, it looks really good like this. I don't really mind the position. And speaking about the door wings, I really like it. I think it's quite unique. I know door wings are pretty common on Transformers, no matter like what continuity, but this is quite unique because it goes straight up. It is quite tall. It definitely sets him apart. What also sets him apart is his chest. It is very unique. Like, I really like how they managed to get these two bits to flare up and the middle of the car section to fold in on itself. I think that is very neat. Very, very cool. Very nice. His head sculpt is also very nicely detailed. You can see the red highlights picked out as well. I'm not sure how accurate it is. In terms of the paints, the head is painted in a really nice silver, as well as the rest of the body having silver highlights throughout. But other than that, it is basically the only paints on him. I would have liked it if they painted him more. Especially in the lower region, his legs do sort of look a bit plain. Speaking of the legs, they are quite short and his arms are quite long. He does sort of look like a gremlin or like a little goblin, and I do think that's pretty funny. In this case, he does suit it well, and I think he looks cool having these types of proportions. The main issue I have with this guy though is the fact that his legs are a bit loose. Well, not really his legs, but just his ankles, this ball joint right here. It is quite loose, and combined with his quite small heel, he does tend to fall over quite a bit. Because, yeah, it's just so loose. I know there are fixes, like I could probably fix that myself with some super glue. It is quite unfortunate because this is one of the most important joints on the figure. And it does make it quite difficult to pose him with the ball joint on his head, which can rotate that far. The ball joint on the shoulder can go out that far. And the ball joint at the elbow, which can act as a swivel and an elbow bend. His figure articulation, he can open and close his hands. He has a waist swivel. His legs are on ball joints. He can kick out that far, kick back that far. He has knee joints and a ball joint in his foot, which doesn't really have that much ankle pivot. Really, none at all. So poseability on Sideways is okay. He has a decent amount of joints, so you can get him into some really nice poses. As I said before, the only thing harming him is his really loose ankles. But other than that, he really has all the articulation you really need. But I would prefer if he had more range. For example, the elbows and the knees, they only really do 90 degrees, which is fine, but I would have preferred more. And in order to help him in posing, he comes with a really nice accessory, which is this this handgun, which again I think is from the game. He never had this in the movie. I will put a picture up just so you guys can see. And the way you plug it in is you put this thumb back all the way and you tab this tab into that hole right there. And then close the thumb where the slot will go into that tab. And it's a very secure connection and very satisfying to put on. The integration is seamless. It emphasizes his goblin appearance because it just makes his arm a lot longer when it already is pretty long. But I think it looks very cool. I think Sideways is a very cool looking character, and they really pulled it off with this robot mode design. I would also like to talk about him with Studio Series Barricade, because I do think they are sort of similar. And for Barricade, I was really hyped to have him, and I was very biased towards this character. But he did sort of let me down, and even though I had no attachment to this guy whatsoever, I do think he is so much better than Barricade. Everything, like transformation, vehicle mode, and robot mode. Even if you are biased to Barricade like me, Sideways is just that much better. I really like the fact as well that these bits flare out. It just gives him the additional width, and then this gives him the additional height. So in my opinion, very nice robot design for Bayverse figure. However, he is on the smaller side of Deluxes. So here is Sideways with Studio Series Jolts, a knockoff of Voyager Ironhide, and Leader Class Blackout. So yeah, let's see if the vehicle mode is just as good. Vehicle mode is just as good. So let's see if the vehicle mode is just as good as the robot. So let's see if the vehicle mode is just as good as the robot mode. Before we get into the transformation, I also wanted to say that his feet are very long and very flat. I do think that looks pretty weird, but it is what it is. Transformation is quite simple, but it is effective. I don't know how to explain it, but it does feel new, but familiar, if that makes sense. Nothing was particularly new, but it just felt interesting. I hope I can get that message across. Yeah, I like the transformation. I think it's pretty cool. It's not the best, but it's not bad. Oops, I forgot to say that. The weapon can also store on the robot mode at the back. The car mode we end up with looks really cool. It is based off an Audi car, but since they didn't get the license, it is sort of a knockoff. It is not as accurate because they don't have the license, but what they have here does still look really good nonetheless. Though you might say that it is a bit stumpy, but I think it's fine. It looks really nice, but I completely understand if you guys think it does look stumpy, and it might be a turn-off for car enthusiasts. But the actual detailing and appearance looks so good. He is really nice, but I don't think he is the best car mode. His paint is very nice as well, very unique. Instead of just being a pure silver car, he has a lot of breakup, especially in the front, which I think looks very nice. You can see the nice detailing, and the back as well. You can see the same detailing here, and the taillights are picked out very well. And also there is a really nice stripe pattern going along the top. Yeah, like, nice car mode. Another positive about this is that he's quite compact. I don't know, I feel like he's nice and solid. A really solid figure. And if you see it from the back, they really moved around this guy's parts quite efficiently, which I think is very cool. For example, like, they made his hands grab his butt. I've never seen that before. And in terms of other Studio Series cars, here is him with Jolt, Ironhide, and Blackout. Before we go into the conclusion, his weapon can store at the back of the car with these two tabs right here. Yeah, I always appreciate weapon storage. Yeah. Robot mode is very nice. I really have no issues with it. I always like Bayverse sculpting. Painting does need a bit of work though, but looks wise, he's good. the biggest issue is the loose ball joints. Weapon integration is very cool. Yeah, just a really nice robot mode overall. And vehicle mode, whether you like it or not, is personal preference. But I, for one, really do like it. I like the overall look of it. I like the paint. It's very compact. I would recommend him. He is definitely one of the better Studio Series car modes.